Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. In case you missed the last video, I really suggest going back and watching it because, or actually, it's in a three-part little series. I really suggest going back and watching it because I have started a crazy quilt for my grandsons, and I'm starting with the oldest one. And so this is my first square that I have gotten done for it, and I'm gonna tie in all elements that they like and they're little boys, so they don't do frilly and cutesy. So this is the extent of frilly and cutesy that I can get with theirs. But so I've got the lasso and I've got the star and I've got this star. And he loves horses and rodeos, and I kind of felt like stars. And it was unintentional but happy coincidence, I guess, or happenstance. I did a chevron stitch, and I was like, for each panel, I'm just going to keep it simple and just do one border stitch. So this one I chose chevron stitch, and then as I got it done, I was like, oh my gosh, it looks like a fence. It's so cute. And then I went in and I put in the straight stitches, and I was worried about it messing up fence look to it, and I put in the straight stitches because the gaps between the chevron stitches were so large that, with little kids, they would pick and poke and stuff, and I was afraid the gaps were going to open up and make holes. So I went back and just put those straight stitches in there, but it still kept the fence look to it. I just kind of added a little extra element to the fence look. I was like, oh my gosh, it looks so cute. Excited about that one. So I'm going to get started on the next square for Easton's quilt. These are my threads that I've picked out to go with this. Trying to keep the color palette simple and trying to keep the stitch border stitches just easy and just doing one stitch at a time. They have, well, they like chickens. We have chickens. We have black copper wrens, which you probably will hear crowing in a minute. And then we also have their parents also have small game chickens. So we've gathered eggs, we've ate some, we've do all the stuff. My husband is actually talking about going to a chicken show with a couple of his nicer looking roosters. So as you can see, I've already marked a couple of these places where I'm going to be cutting this material, and then this will be the filler, and then if I need more filler, I'll use this as a filler as well. And then I felt like these colors were good colors to go with these materials, and I'm excited. It's going to look so cute. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started cutting out. Like I said, I've already measured out some squares on this one and the other one. There's still two that I haven't measured out anything on, and I don't want to just cut and snip and rip because I want it to stay in this line, but I don't want it to over fray. A lot of times when you snip and rip, the softer materials over fray and make the edges really thin. Oops, I got off my line right there. Just plop that out right there. So all of this material that I have, I went to the local fabric store here. I have gone to Hobby Lobby and I do get some stuff from Hobby Lobby, but I like shopping local first. I went to the local fabric store and I bought some fat quarters they already had cut out, and then I went to Hobby Lobby and got some different fat quarters that they had. So some of this came from the local fabric store and some of this came from Hobby Lobby. Like I said, I like to support local first. So then I can just fray the edges myself and not keep it from going too thin or fraying too much. My husband is trying to be so quiet in the background back there, pouring himself a drink. And there goes one of the roosters. We have 8 roosters, I believe. So one goes, they all go. Fair warning. Okay. So because I have this little extra line on here on this piece, it'll have to go to this side so that it gets covered up. When you do your seam, you lose that 1/4 inch on each side. With the seam, where do I want? I like this edge, I want to save as much of that edge as possible. So this one might go in the middle. So then you can just kind of fray them as you want. And sometimes those little marks don't matter. And some of them won't matter anyways because they'll get covered up with stitches. And for this one, I've decided I'm going to do a Cretan stitch. And if you've ever seen a Cretan stitch, it looks kind of like chicken wire. It's like half of a thing of chicken wire. So I'm gonna see if I can kind of connect them a little bit to make it fully look like chicken wire. I don't yet know how that's gonna work, but we're gonna play around with it and see. Just do that then. There. That's getting a good fray on it. Yeah, that's getting a nice fray without distorting. So I cut them a little larger than the actual size that I needed, just so that I would have room to fray them without them being too small for the squares. Because I measured it, I measured how many squares I was going to need. And again, like I got filler squares, so I didn't cut out all of the space that I was going to need to cover, but because I wanted to have room for playing around. And I did the last one very symmetrical and very just kind of straightforward. I don't know if I'm gonna, some of them I kind of want to play around with and not keep them just edge to edge. So I don't know. My brain doesn't always like when there's no like pattern to go by. So I don't know yet how that's gonna work. So like I'm gonna have this space to fill in, and I'm gonna have like this space to fill in, and I like that edge on that one. I don't know. So again, we're just out. Let me finish cutting out, and then we'll keep playing and see. So all these chickens were cute. Obviously, these are the bigger chickens. So if you do smaller squares and the bigger chickens, you're gonna lose a lot of your pattern. So I chose to do the larger squares in this material, and then do the smaller fill-in squares with the other smaller patterns chickens. I also have another set of chicken materials and patterns that I like, so I may end up doing 2 chicken squares. I don't yet know. I have 18 squares that I have to do. I mapped it out, like I said in the last video. I mapped it out. I need 18 squares, and 6 of those squares is going to be the letters of Easton's name. And then 4 of those squares are going to be pocket squares. So that leaves 8 squares to be things. And the pocket squares can even be things that they like, but it'll be less, I don't even know the right word. Not less detailed necessarily, but less. I still don't even know the right word for that. But anyways, it won't be as much going on the pocket squares because it's going to be taken up by a large pocket for them to keep their little treasures in. Yes, I know it's a quilt, and they're going to cover up with it, and that might be, distracting. Some people think, I guess, but I still like the idea of them having a little place to store. Now then, so again, I like this edge, so I'm going to be able to use this edge. And anytime I go and buy flat squares, I come home and wash them. Yes, they fray, and yes, they get all these crazy strings that have to be cut off. I spent, yesterday was a lovely day. I went to the thrift store and I got a lovely haul of just old curtains and pillow shams and tablecloths and random good little bits and scarves, just stuff that can be cut up and used for different projects. later on. I didn't specifically get any of them for the crazy quilt for Easton, but I thought I could use them in something else later on. So I hope I'm keeping that in frame. I'm just fraying these edges a bit. So I did my measurements based on the measurement of my felt. And again, if you missed the last video, I had a whole bunch of leftover felt because one year I decided I was going to make felt Christmas ornaments, and I apparently got really ambitious with that, or I just went a little overboard buying felt one. I'm not sure which it was, but I either thought I was going to make a ton of felt Christmas ornaments, or I just liked buying felt, who knows. But I had all this leftover felt, and I decided on this crazy quilt. I was like, that's a perfect way to use up all that leftover felt. I had so much leftover felt in for needing 18 squares. I only need to buy one more square felt to have enough squares to complete his blanket. I hope you can see that. I hope I'm keeping that in using the edge of my mat here to line everything up. But anyway, the felt squares are 9 by 12. So just been breaking that down and basing my cuts and stuff off of that. Got this piece as well. So let's do this piece over here. So I'm gonna keep that piece. Ooh. See, this is why we play around. Which edges am I? And I don't have to fray these edges if I'm gonna put it over here. But this edge, this is the pretty fray at the moment, so I'm gonna keep that, and that's the pretty fray. And not that these other edges won't be pretty once they're washed and stuff. They'll be pretty too. So I may just have to be okay with losing a few of those edges. Let's see, once we get everything kind of starting. Actually, I'm gonna cut some of this yellow too. I don't have my ruler. Let me grab my ruler. Okay, so now I have my cutter and my ruler, and I measured those out the other day at work. So I didn't have my mat and I didn't have my cutter. I had a pair of scissors, and I actually thought I was going to get to cut them out while I was there, but I didn't. So we're going to do it today. And I'm actually kind of glad that I didn't then, because I made a trip yesterday to the local fabric store and ended up with this lovely piece of what to me looks like chicken feet. So I thought this would be perfect. I don't know if that's intentional. I don't know if it's supposed to look like chicken feet, but to me it looks like chicken feet, so I'm going with it. Let's see where let's do Alright, I'm just going to measure it out real quick. It's for that's probably not straight. I actually bought it because I was teaching some embroidery classes, and I was having to cut out lots of squares of canvas for the class. And I was like, gosh, I need something to make this faster. So I ended up thinking, what is that little piece? And that's missing that little triangle right there. So we'll have to stick that under or on an edge to hide that. So, again, if y'all didn't watch the video about the horse square, go back and watch that. That was lots of fun to make that. Let's get this away. Let's get all of this stuff back over here. Oh, I lost a piece, did I? Losing my mind. Yes. And this, with it being chicken feet, it doesn't have to go in any specific direction. Yes, I like that right there. Then I can do the bigger piece. Well, maybe do the bigger piece here. Again, I'll have to do some spraying. Again, my brain has such a hard time. Like everything has to have a pattern. I'm not very good at not doing patterns, so I love the idea of the freeform and slow stitch, but my brain is screaming. It's gotta have a pattern. It's gotta match, kind of thing. So I don't know how well I'm gonna do with this. I want it to have some character and some wonky pieces to it. So I'm gonna try real hard to get that character and wonkiness. But again, I don't know if my brain necessarily will let me. We're gonna put chicken feet. Chicken feet. Let me bring it down just a little bit to catch. Oh, that was too far. You just need to catch more than just the fray along there. There are days I threaten to get rid of all the roosters just to listen to my husband scream, "No, not my chickens." Is that mean of me? I think it might be a little bit, but I'm okay with that. What do we want to do? Well, we could do wonky chickens over here. We could do sideways chickens. We could do upside down chickens. That means that's covering out some of that. So do we want to? I don't know if y'all can hear that in the background. My husband's in a meeting. He works from home, so he's got a call. So if y'all can hear that, hope it's not too distracting. It's just a mumble to me. I'm not sure if y'all can hear it. These headphones pick up strange things sometimes, so I never know what it's picking up and magnifying. My mother, when she calls me and I'm wearing them, she says it magnifies everything going on in the background. So do I just want to cut this piece down? I think so. I think we'll just cut and chop that chicken's head off that and just like a rooster, and that's a go call and waddle. If you know anything about chickens, hens, the females, don't have that. And they're not as pretty. The hens are. The roosters are the pretty ones. And like I said, we have the black copper marins, so they both have copper in their, they're black with copper accents in their feathers. So they're still a very pretty chicken, and they got fluffy feet. Not super fluffy, but they do have fluffy feet. So I'm like, let me see. Okay, but they're a large breed. Black copper marin is a large breed from France. So this little background on chickens, black copper marins. Since we're doing chicken quilting, what can well, I'm not going to throw that away because I might be able to use that somewhere. Now then, to decide. First things first, I need to tack it into place or baste it into place, depending on where you're at or from and what you call it. So tacking and basting are the same thing. It's just a form of small stitches to hold things into place so that other work can be done on them, and then they can be taken out later. Really simple. So I'll do short, tiny little basting stitches on the front, but long basting stitches on the back. So there'll be big gaps between the tiny little stitches on the front. And the main thing is just to get everything in place and held down, so that then while I'm stitching on it, this ended up very, very, very symmetrical again. Like I said, my brain goes, no pattern, I didn't like it. So, and this little piece right here, can y'all see that? Yeah, that little piece right there. I'm not worried about that. It will, again, that quarter of an inch will get lost all the way around from where it's connected to the next square. So, not a major concern on that. Now, again, where to start? Clear my working space, clear my work. Basting stitches again. Whew, 40 brain. basting stitches. I still have some of this red, and then I got some purple. So I think I'll start with just using these pieces to thread my regular sewing needle and just start basting down. Y'all don't want to watch me baste this down, so I'm going to stop the video here. I'll come back once it's all basted down.